Good evening. We're the smoking section with Stephen Helfer. You're watching. And tonight, my co-host will be doing a Skype interview with a gentleman in Germany named Christoph Lövenich, who is a member of a German smokers' rights group called Netzwerk Rauchen, and I'm going to be cueing the interview in just a moment. He is one of the most articulate spokespersons for smokers' rights, and we're very happy to have this interview. And so let's see what we got here now.
Hey, welcome back, Christoph. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me, Emily.
Hey, so I know we had so much to talk about last time, and I know one of the things that we wanted to talk about this time was that Netzwerk Rauchen has actually created a table on their website listing the tar and nicotine contents of all different brands of cigarettes. Why did you take this initiative?
Yeah, the TPD, the European Tobacco Products Directive, came into force in Germany last year. The collection of EU measures against tobacco and for the consumer, the pictorial warnings, that like horror picture show, this health porn is a major issue, and also
the so-called plain packaging.
It's not a full plain packaging, so you still have in Germany, at least, as opposed to like the UK or France, you still have logos on it and some color, but the most part of the package is covered with text and pictures, and that's, of course, the most obvious element of that TPD, but also the inside of the cigarettes, the content was changed. There's regulation of ingredients, flavors in particular, except for menthol. Menthol will be banned in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So a lot has changed. And the third element is that the labels for nicotine, for tar, and for carbon monoxide have vanished because they have been illegalized.
That's so crazy to me. I don't understand how giving the consumer less information about what is in the package could possibly help them.
Exactly. I mean, these labels were introduced by law 35 years ago approximately, and started with that small health warning. 15 years ago, the bigger warnings were introduced all over the EU in these black frames, and that included the labels. I might show you one of the old packages. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
You can see in one of the black frames, you can see the labels.
Yeah.
And why did they decide to ban them? I mean, it's not like they stopped making it mandatory, but they actually banned them, and that's in their in their reasoning. It's this argument that smoking is bad anyway,
right,
regardless of how much tar or nicotine
right,
or whatever is in it. So whatever, and for them it's nothing that would be of available information for the customer. It is though, of course, customers are interested in that, and now that that it has disappeared, companies can change the labels without consumers noticing. So you can reduce it, for instance, maybe in preparation to what the FDA in the US is planning, to like decreasing nicotine yields dramatically, and.
It's almost, I mean, it's interesting to me because I see a trend, especially in America, of showing as much information as possible on food items. For instance, a lot of restaurants here and prepared food places have to start showing the number of calories and fat in meals. It's almost like, with this trend though, it's almost like they've decided, well, smoking is just so bad, we're not going to even show this kind of information anymore and not allow consumers that choice, because there can be no choice among something that's so bad for you. At least it seems that's the confusing message that's coming across. I'm not quite sure what the intention is.
Exactly. I mean, these measures and the intentions are often quite contradictory.
Yes,
when the
that's
EU
true.
15 years ago banned the brand. The parts of the brand names like light and mild. The reason was that would give consumers the impression that these cigarettes will be less harmful,
right.
Which the answer is that let's ban them, and now they're called differently. But at the same time, they also reduced the maximum nicotine and the maximum tar levels in cigarettes, which is completely illogical.
Right,
because,
it is.
Saying if light cigarettes aren't less harmful, then stronger cigarettes aren't more harmful.
Right. It does seem like there's some confusion behind that. And I know, one example, I'm not sure of the status of this in Germany, but in America, the American Spirit brand is no longer allowed to call their cigarettes natural or organic, the organic varieties, because they say that implies that they're somehow better for you or less harmful.
Yeah. Same happened here through the TPD2, but also beforehand by German law. And then courts ruled, even if that sort of tobacco, that brand of cigarettes is actually organic, you're not allowed to call it like that, because calling things as they are would be misguiding, which of course doesn't make any sense. But that's the law, and that's what the courts are ruling. And I mean, you're right. There's a general tendency to put more and more stuff on the packages, warnings of all kinds. But in this case, they decided to do the opposite. I think it doesn't extend to vaping. Though I think for vaping they or at least the German legislature, I don't know about the EU, the German legislature on the federal level just introduced mandatory labels for nicotine.
I'm not sure of the status of that in the US yet. I haven't followed very closely along with what is now required for vaping, so I'd have to look into that.
But so for the smoker, there's no information anymore, and we wanted as Netzwerk Rauchen, we wanted to fill in that gap and provide that information nonetheless.
Right.
Actually, the producers are extremely reluctant in publishing that information. I mean, it's banned from printing it on the packages, but it's not illegal to publish it. But still, only a few, mostly smaller companies were willing to send that info to us.
So you actually reached out to these
we reached out
companies.
to the producers, to the companies, exactly. But most of them declined.
Wow.
Or even didn't react. Still, we get that info by cooperation with the with a weekly newspaper of the tobacco business in Germany, the Tabak-Zeitung, as it is called.
Sort of an industry newspaper for tobacco.
Yeah, for the whole tobacco business, exactly, and mostly read by small retailers, and yeah, they publish that info annually, and through that cooperation, we were able to use the data and to show them to everyone interested on the internet on on a specific website we set up for that purpose, and that includes a search function. So all brands can be searched, and you can look for search terms like menthol, and you will find. I'm just trying to do that at the moment. So if you type in menthol, you get. I think we have 319 entries in total, and menthol that are like 28 brands. That's not surprising because in Germany menthol has a smaller market share than like the US.
Yeah.
So you get so you get 28 different brands, and you have the brand name, you have some features. For instance, it says American blend and menthol. You get the company, the producer, and the labels for and the yields for tar, for nicotine, and for carbon monoxide.
And have you had much feedback from smokers about this list since you published it?
Yeah, there are. I mean, we can see there are quite a few visitors on the website on that particular page of it. So there are smokers that are interested. But of course, if we had more mass media exposure, we of course could coverage. We could make that service known to more smokers.
So at this point, is this the only place that this information is available in Germany?
The only place on the internet where it's available to everybody and where it's recent information. There's one website by the federal government that includes that info, but I think the most recent entries are like 6 years old or something. So that would be
not much use to anyone.
Exactly. So that would be another option actually to obtain these data. Yeah, by the Freedom of Information Act, you could get these data from a federal office where all of these labels are registered, where the companies send them to. Yeah, and what we are doing, we are comparing these data to the ones of last year. We will publish about that soon. To see what kind of changes have happened. I mean, through TPD2, lots of brands disappeared and others were renamed. So it's a bit of a complex situation. But it's clear that some brands, at least, have changed a little bit. Like major brands of Philip Morris now have a reduced nicotine level, from 0.8 to 0.7.
That's interesting. Interesting.
And that's something.
Do you have any sense of why certain companies might be reducing their tar and nicotine content?
I suppose Philip Morris might be experimenting with that because of future legislation that would reduce these levels, and they are probably willing to prepare for that, as they are generally trying to make the best out of that regulation instead of fighting it in most cases.
That makes sense.
The special role of that cooperation.
That makes sense. Yeah, you mentioned that in Germany the menthol is a much smaller market share than perhaps in the U.S., for example. Have you heard much concern among consumers about the fact that menthol cigarettes are going to be basically banned in was it 2018 or 2019?
Yeah, I think it's 2020 or 2021, something like that. Yeah, I mean that's always a clever measure to postpone that over many years.
Right.
So it's not an urgent matter to people.
Right.
And many people haven't noticed. I think some menthol smokers that aren't even informed about that or haven't heard about that. But of course the shock for them will be coming. So
That's my impression. My father, who lives in the Netherlands, actually smokes menthols, and he didn't know about this, that they're going to be banned. And when I told him, he didn't seem very concerned. I think he just thinks, well, that's in the future. I think he even thinks somewhere in the back of his mind, oh well, I'll just stop smoking, when that happens. But I do wonder what's going to actually happen when that moment arrives. For people, it's going to be a big shock.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know how the black market will react to that. I mean, the black market plays a role. Whether they are offering menthol cigarettes or will increasingly do so at that point. That will be interesting to see.
Well, I want to talk about... Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, some smokers might be optimistic and or a little bit of delusional and thinking, well, it's a couple of years, things might change and it might not come into effect. But I guess it would be naive. The whole way things are working at the moment, regulation will increase instead of decrease.
Yep.
So there's not that much hope at the moment.
That's true. And you mentioned the black market, so I wanted to talk a little bit about taxes and the situation of taxes in Germany. So would you consider at the moment that there's very high taxes on cigarettes in Germany? And are there differences in taxes between roll your own tobacco, cigarettes?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably no country in the world where there aren't high taxes on cigarettes compared to the past. It's of course always in relation to purchasing power. Well, in Germany, the purchasing power is a bit higher than in quite a few other countries, and the taxes are not as high than in many of these Anglo-Saxon or Anglo-Puritan countries, even a bit less than in some neighboring countries, not much, but a bit. In that respect, in spite of all of the tax hikes of the past years, it's not even the worst place to be as a smoker, but probably future tax hikes to come.
Are there differences in taxes in Germany between the different states?
Yeah.
Because I know you mentioned last time that there's the different regulation in terms of where you can smoke in the different states.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but not in terms of taxes. Taxes are decided on the federal level, so they're the same for all Germany, and. I mean, you look at the history. The last time the tobacco tax was actually reduced was in '53, I guess, and
wow.
then I think in the late '60s there was a hike, and then in the '70s it started to be part of the anti-smoking project, and particularly since 2001. There has been like one tax hike after the other, usually the consecutive ones each year, and we had like 5 consecutive ones between 2010 and 2015. And
are those tax hikes actually voted on in the federal level, or are they just put through?
It's a decision by the federal parliament, by the Bundestag. It's usually the coalition parties agreeing upon that. And a high number of consecutive taxes is a little bit of a compromise between will to raise taxes to a very high level and not to do too much at the same time in order to keep the customer smoking, so that they keep funding the government, while the more fanatical antis, they prefer like one huge hike instead of several small ones, because they think that would deter more people from smoking.
Right. I think it's always, it's a very interesting thing, this is true all over the world, is that conflict, I think basic conflict between government and and the anti-smoking activists, and I do think there is still, a very big difference between them. And I think government is more interested in the revenue that they can get from smokers. At the same time, the anti-smoking campaigners are actually hoping to stop people from smoking. Although at the same time, they're also dependent to a certain extent on that revenue.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, government includes politicians and public servants that are more ideologically anti-smoking, and those at the Ministry of Finance or at the Financial Committee of Parliament who are more interested in revenue. But I personally think it has shifted a little bit, and those that want to reduce smoking are generally in a stronger position than they were in the past.
Oh, that's very interesting.
I think the total level of revenue of tobacco tax revenue has remained more or less the same for many years. So basically, tax hikes are compensating the losses, and the losses are, of course, not only due to some people quitting and others maybe smoking a little bit less, but also due to the black market, of course. And not just the black market, but also legal imports, the small amounts of like 1 or 2 cartons that you can get from other countries on a plane, tax-free.
Right.
They play quite a role.
Yeah. And I think it would be quite a shock if ever anti-smoking or the ideological campaigners had their way and people completely stopped smoking. I think that loss of revenue would be quite a shock to the public, I think, because most people have no idea. I don't think that so much revenue is generated by tobacco taxes. So it's definitely an interesting issue, and just in that play between the two forces.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of a shift, I would call it, from milking the cow to slaughtering the cow. In a way.
That's a good way to put it.
The other aspect you ask about is there are different tax rates that exist in Germany. Ready-made industry cigarettes have higher tax levels, while roll your own and make your own cigarettes are cheaper, quite a bit cheaper. So a lot of people change to that. Traditionally, there have always been roll your own smokers, including those that weren't, or where money isn't the only issue. Those that prefer roll your own for whatever reasons, maybe for the mechanical aspects, for their own activities and the taste and everything. With make your own, it's more a tax thing, because the make your own stuff wasn't very common like 20-25 years ago. It's more a development of switching to it to avoid the otherwise higher taxes. Plus, of course, there's another another aspect that applies to roll your own and make your own tobacco, to both of them. That's this so-called fire-safe cigarette that was introduced in the EU in 2011. It was a little bit earlier, I think, in Canada and the US. That's, of course, a way to avoid that. By making your own, by rolling your own cigarettes.
Avoid the chemicals that are added. Yep, that's right. That's right. Well,
the chemicals, the chemicals, and of course the lack of convenience for those that are slower smokers and have to keep relighting, and then the taste is a little bit of a problem sometimes, particularly after relighting. So that's a way to circumvent that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Christoph. Again, very interesting. We have so much to talk about, and I hope you'll join us again. Thank you.
I'd love to. Thank you, Emily.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was a great interview. It touched on so many aspects of the whole war on smoking that you couldn't even catalog them. But one is, I think, the fact that how many government services are being provided to non-smokers that are being funded by smokers. so that, you know, if everybody stops smoking, all of a sudden, things like universal medical care here in Massachusetts would really be a big problem, because the tobacco taxes are a major source of funding for those programs. Another thing that's interesting that Christoph lighted upon was the you know, the idea, well, it doesn't matter what tar and nicotine is, and if you're smoking lighter cigarettes, it doesn't matter, yet the EU puts a maximum amount of tar and nicotine. So why is it that lighter cigarettes aren't better for you, but that they put this maximum amount of tar and nicotine as if it were bad? And the idea that withholding information from the public benefits the public, that really is a very insidious part of the anti-smoking movement, most notably with American spirits, that they can't say they're organic even if they are organic. They can't tell the truth to the public because the government knows the public can't handle the truth. Well, thanks for watching. Great interview, and I hope you'd show up and watch us next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Good night.